Oh my gosh, everyone. Welcome to Powerful Stuff. Powerful Stuff, as all of you know, is your one-stop shop for inner and outer connection with a little bit of cheekiness, a little bit of play, because I believe it is our responsibilities, not ourselves, that we should take seriously. I'm Meredith Baker. I'm your host guiding you through this journey, and I'm also a leadership coach, and we are going on the whole transformational arc together. And today I have such a special guest. I know I say that every time, but
but I really am today.
but I really mean it. Like now, like this is go time. It's crazy. So gosh, where do I even begin with this one? One of my besties, Ashlyn Showalter, is on the pod with me today. This is not a drill. Ashlyn and I quarantined together in a small pod of 8 people back in the deep pandemic when we thought the world might be ending. We didn't know. And Ashlyn actually was the first person who told me to step into coaching while I had my beverage company. So she always has like this way of seeing things before other people can see it, both for themselves and also for her own life, and helping hold our hand every step of the way. Ashlyn not only is a coach, having coached people in health, starting their own business, and also kind of transforming their lives, but she's also creator of Mycelium Festival, which she co-founded with her partner Chad, which we'll also talk about. And I've gotten the pleasure of leading 4 yogas 4 years in a row at Mycelium, which actually led us, my husband Spencer and I, to use that venue for where we got married, and also gave me the pleasure of getting to teach yoga alongside one of my yoga DJ idols, Soul Rising. So Ashlyn's just making dreams come true. And this episode is all going to be all about how she did it and how you can too. Welcome to Powerful Stuff, Ashlyn.
Oh, thanks for having me. That just made me feel so warm and fuzzy inside.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's the powerful stuff right there.
I feel powerful.
Oh my gosh, you are powerful. And I just like want to rewind it back to like I think it was our first ever hang before the pandemic, and you were telling me, it was like we did a Pilates class or something, and you were telling me about this like
I think it was bar.
Oh
yes, it was bar class. I remember
it was bar class. Yeah. And I was like, well, we met at a cacao ceremony at the Good Work House, which was like the OG community spot back in the day in 2019. And I'm like, who is this girl? She's so cool. And then we got like coffee at Tom's Coffee after, back when it existed on Abbot Kinney. And you were like telling me about like the coaching industry and the coaching world. And I'm like, wow, she has so much knowledge about this entrepreneurial world. And that was like the start of our friendship. And that was back when, I had my beverage company. And I guess like the first thing I just like love to start off with is like, if you could kind of share with everyone your first story. I mean, we'll go into all of them, but like of how you like first discovered manifestation. What was that first thing that you manifested?
Ooh, that's a great question. So I first discovered the term manifestation after reading the book Think and Grow Rich, which it sounds like it's very focused on money, but it really is about how to change your thoughts and beliefs in order to direct your attention and focus so that you can consciously create what you want out of your life. And reading that book was the first time that I realized that I had some semblance of control over my life, and that life was not just happening to me. I could consciously co-create it with this life force that is all around us. And so that was the first time. And I think it was my roommate, Heidi, which you know Heidi.
Yeah, shout out Heidi.
Yeah, she really got me into all this stuff, honestly. She grew up on like the law of attraction and The Secret and all of that. And I did not. It was my first introduction when I was like, I would say probably like 21. And so that really shifted everything for me. And once I read that, it was like an aha moment. My whole body was like, oh, wow, this is a yes. Like, this feels right. This feels exciting. Like, I can create my life, and I don't have to just let it, happen to me. And so I'm trying to think of the first thing that I ever manifested. So I remember, they tell you like start small.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it was probably just little like amounts of money. Like I used to go to work and I used to bartend, and I would be like, okay, it's a Wednesday night. I would typically make like $150 tonight. I'm going to manifest $300 tonight. And if I do, then that's a sign that something is working for me in my favor. And I would. It was pretty crazy how it would happen. And so, or like little things like I manifest like a free coffee. And so I feel like I started to train myself to just try to do little things where I would just, put out the desire and see if it happened. And it didn't always happen perfectly, but it happened enough to just increase this, just provide enough evidence to support that we can put out thoughts and energy and then attract things to us, which is crazy. It's like kind of crazy to talk about.
Yeah,
honestly.
it is. And I love that though. It's like starting small, like little winks from the universe. Cause I think sometimes we can start with the biggest thing and there's still so much like doubt or limiting belief there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think you kind of need to try little things so that it's almost like your nervous system can acclimate to this process rather than, like you said, just try something big and then when or if it doesn't happen, because sometimes those big things can take a lot of time.
Yeah.
And then you fall off or you just, forget about it. And so, yeah, I agree. I think starting small is good.
Yay. And with that, I'm like, now that we've done the small things, which is so real and so true. And you were like bartending, and then I love the story of like how you manifested Chad. although our men,
I know.
When I say I manifested Spencer, he's like, I have agency in the situation. I'm not like just something you manifested. But yeah, like I love your story and like the song that you would use if you want to kind of like walk through like the steps of like how that all came to be.
Yes. Yeah. So I was single for like 2 years, and again, after I started getting into more of this like self-growth kind of sphere and started reading books, and I was like, okay, well, if I can manifest little things, maybe I will try to put out this energy of this partner that I want to attract. There's a lot of different ways that people go about manifesting their partner. And for me, I had my like list of things that I wanted to attract in a partner. And I remember actually an aha moment when I made that list. I realized this was some time before I actually, met Chad. I realized that I, in fact, was not a lot of the things on that list. And so I had this aha moment of, okay, my goal is to build myself into these qualities that I am looking for in a partner. And how can I expect or ask for these things in a partner if I am not that myself? And so that was my first step. And then my second step was actually, how do I want to feel in a relationship? Rather than the person that I want to attract exactly and their whole vibe. It was like, how does the relationship itself feel like? And how do I feel within that? Rather than, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like versus just like, these are all the things that I want in a partner. And so I'm going to like focus on that.
Right.
I was focusing on the feeling, the energy, the vibe of how I wanted to feel within this union.
Right. And kind of doing the things that you could control for yourself. Of
Yes.
like, I'm not just going to wait for the partner to get here. How can I cultivate these feelings inside of myself? So I manifest a partner that's like the energetic match versus hoping they'll pull me up to that.
Yes, exactly. And so I used to watch these YouTube videos. It's like right when YouTube came out. And there was this couple online that I really liked, and it was just fun. And their relationship just seemed like so passionate, and they would go on adventures together, and they were very healthy together, and they just looked like they were thriving. And there was this one of the songs that they used in the background was just really spoke to me, and it felt like that's the feeling that I'm looking for. And so I would actually play this song and I would kind of meditate on it with no direct like force or outcome or like I need this. It was just like I'm going to just like let myself experience this, and this is my desire, and I'm not worried about whether it's going to happen, but I'm just letting myself feel how amazing it's going to feel when I am experiencing this relationship.
Yeah.
And it was just fun. It was fun. Like, it wasn't just like, I need to find this partner. I need to make it happen. It was just very fun and enjoyable and playful and exciting. Like, it was kind of just this energy of like, what if this were to happen? And while I was, doing this, I was also I was working out and I was reading books and I was meditating and I was really just focused on myself. And when I actually met Chad, I was kind of, I was like surprised. Like and delighted.
Yay,
but
surprised or
I
delighted.
wasn't like so focused on it. I wasn't really focused on going out and meeting people. I wasn't going on dates. Like, I wasn't on any of the apps. And it just happened.
I love that so much. And now when I ever think of Jubal, I think of
That's
you.
the
And that's
song.
like our meditating song. It's like one of the top friendship songs that I like jumped on the piggyback of you for.
It
hearing
goes
your
so
manifestation
hard.
story.
It goes so hard. I will never, like, it just doesn't get old.
Yeah. Amen to that.
Yeah.
We'll put Jubal in the show notes if you guys also want to manifest to it. It's powerful.
It is. And also, the other thing I want to say too is it's funny because as I was doing this, Chad, in his own little world, was working with a life coach and had created these what's called like ideal scenes.
Oh, it's with Johnny.
Yes, with Johnny.
Shout out Johnny. We all have worked with you. Thanks to you guys.
Yes.
The whole Venice
Johnny
community.
has traveled around. He is amazing. But he had asked Chad, in 6 months from now, what is your most ideal outcome? And he said that he wanted to be working on a show or a project that moved his career along. He's an actor, among other things. He wanted to be in love, and he wanted a dog. And so literally exactly in 6 months, he was working on a project that really moved his career along in Atlanta, which is where he met me. And then I had Luna, which is now his dog.
Yeah, Luna's also, if you guys don't know, the most precious dog healer. I feel like she has such a personality.
She does.
Like, you could charge like $300 an hour just like healing sessions, just leave people in a room with Luna.
For real. She's so sweet.
She's so sweet. That's so funny. So it's like, who manifested who, but you both were working on yourself at the same time, which like called each other in.
What you seek is seeking you.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
And then the crazy thing too, like, I just want to touch on a few of these stories before we get into like the meat of the present day, because I just find it so inspiring. Like, when you then met Chad and you moved to LA and you were living in West Hollywood, I mean, wow, what a different time.
What a different time.
Like, what was that feeling like? Okay, I've manifested my partner. Now I'm here in this unfamiliar city. Like, because sometimes we also get the manifestations that we want, and it's so great in some ways, but then it like opens us up to like more of what we like desire in other areas, because from what I remember of what you told me, like, then it was like a whole other thing of like, oh, I like don't have my friends that I had in Atlanta anymore.
Yeah, for sure. So we moved I moved eventually. Chad and I dated for almost a year, and then I moved to LA with him, and I loved LA, and I had always wanted to live in LA, but not necessarily in West Hollywood. But
we love you guys if you're living there.
Yes.
And also we love Venice.
Yes, Venice is where it's at. But Yeah, and really like Venice is what made me fall in love with LA initially. And so I moved to West Hollywood with Chad, and he was in the acting world and it's very happening over there. And so I yeah, I mean it was hard. I really did not like it at all. It was hard to find a job. Like, and
And you were
and I was
bartending still.
bartending. And so I was like, oh, it'll be so easy. I have so much experience. And it was always so easy for me to get a job in Atlanta. And then I moved to LA. I didn't know anyone. And it was so hard for me to find a job. And so I was just grinding. And then I finally found a job. And then I got another job. At one point, I had like 3 jobs and like no friends, and I had met some of the friends that Chad had, made over the years, and they were all beautiful and amazing, but I hadn't really found like my people yet, and it didn't feel like I was going to in West Hollywood. It was like
Fair.
I'm like, and it's hard to meet people that are aligned when you are not in the same place, or like the energy or the things that you are aligned with.
Yeah.
And it's very much an entertainment world over there.
Yeah. And so like what steps did you, I'm just so blown away by like how quickly it happened, but I want to hear it from you. But like what steps did you take to be like, okay, I'm going to take ownership over like the community that I want to create? And also, did it coincide with like okay, well, we'll start there. I'm like, I have a habit on my podcast of being like asking three questions in a row. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's start there.
Perfect.
I'm
I love
holding
it.
myself back.
I love it. So the first step was getting to Venice. I was very focused on getting to Venice because I just felt an intuitive drive to be there. And I had communicated that with Chad. He was very resistant because he was in the acting world. And he just didn't understand. He didn't understand the vibes yet. And so I remember we actually like sat down and we were like, plan to get to Venice on like a piece of paper, and like just wrote out all of these steps because I was like, I really need this, Chad. And shout out to Chad. He really trusted my vision with this one, even though he was pretty resistant. And so we eventually, I convinced him. And
yay.
I know, I convinced him. And
what a different world we'd live in if you guys were still in WeHo right now.
I know.
Who
crazy.
knows what life would be like for all of us in Venice.
I probably would have moved out of LA at this point. Like I would just been like, I don't like it here anymore. But yeah, so we moved to Venice, and it still was tough because there was like 6 months of living in Venice where, we really didn't know anyone now. So Chad had his friends in West Hollywood, but we knew literally 0 people.
And this was when, like 2016, 2017?
Yes. Yeah. So it was probably, 2017, 2018 maybe.
Whoa,
something like
that's
that.
Crazy because I was here then, but we like didn't know each other.
We just didn't know each other.
Isn't that ships crossing in the night?
I know. So we didn't know anyone. And so it was a little bit depressing for a few months. And I was legitimately writing in my journal every day. I was like, I am receiving, I have a community of people who are go-getters and entrepreneurs, and we're all supporting each other. And I have an open door policy at my house, and we just have community all the time and friendships, and we go on group activities and all of the stuff. So I'm just like writing this literally over and over and over in my journal. And then I was also trying to go to places where I felt like my people would be. And one of those was this silent disco that someone had happened to invite me to. And it was just an amazing experience. It was just like a guided dance experience on the beach. And it was called The Wave. Shout out Julia Grace for creating such a beautiful experience. And I would actually go every week, like by myself for a while. And I would bring Chad sometimes. And eventually one day I met someone who was the best person to know on the West Side.
Drum roll.
Houston.
We love you, Houston.
Yes. And I met him at this silent disco, which is so fun. We met dancing on the beach, which is it's so the energy of like this whole community.
It's so true. And it's so full circle to like Mycelium and what you created at his property. But yeah. And then who spoke to who first? Like, and what was like the action taken? Like, was it you texting him? Like,
yeah. So I remember, in this guided experience, she'll have you, get different partners throughout the time. Sometimes you're in a group. And so I remember me and Houston were dancing together, and I remember being like, wow, like he's got really good moves, and he's also got a cool vibe. Like he was wearing this cool kimono thing, in very Houston fashion.
On brand.
Yeah. And that was just kind of, and then I was just like, oh, cool. He seems cool. And then at the end, he actually came up to, I was with Sydney and Andrew, who I had pulled as our couple friend who lived in the Valley. So I had invited them all the way from the Valley.
Whoa.
And they were there. So it was us three. And he came up to us and invited us to the Good Work House and said that it was a Monday night. And he said that on Wednesday, basically, there was this like healthy happy hour and invited us. And I was like, done, signed, sealed, delivered. I'm so excited. We just got invited to something.
Yeah. like I'm there.
I was so excited. And so then I think we exchanged like Instagrams or something, and I was like, yes, message me the details. I went home and I talked to Chad, and I was like, Chad, we're going to this thing. He was like, I don't really feel like it. Chad's a little more introverted than me. And I was like, Chad, this is where we're going to meet our friends and our people. I know it. It's literally a healthy happy hour. I'm like, this is incredible. Like, you don't find this in West Hollywood. No one's doing a healthy happy hour. I was like, I don't even know what that is, but I'm so down.
Yeah, like the word healthy sounds good.
Yeah.
We'll be there.
Yeah. And then so I eventually persuaded him again. And
I think that's where I met Chad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that night is when we met some of our best friends that we know today. And
what a solid invite from Houston's end.
Oh my God. And we had the best night. And I just remember walking away from that just feeling so happy and just so grateful that I was like, okay, it's happened. We've got our in.
Holding on.
Yes, I'm like, people, friends, these are our people. I just know it.
But I love that so much because I think it's like also like answering the call, like as we kind of think about manifestation as well, of like sometimes like it's handed to us, or if we're like resistant or not ready, it would be easy to be like no, or oh, like yeah, I'll try to come, but then you're like, okay, I'm there. Yeah. This is go time. We're showing up.
That's such a good point, because it's creating your life intentionally is so much about putting out the desire and like really being specific about what you want, but not just sitting there and waiting for it to happen. It's kind of like there's this energy of like, I'm putting this out there, I'm trusting and I'm surrendering. And at the same time, like, what is the next intentional and aligned action step that I can take to put myself closer to this desire?
Yeah.
So it really does requires effort on your side as well.
Yeah, it's true. And it's so funny because like that story with Houston, like I was part of a co-working space called Hobbitas, and Houston was a member, and was like, you should come to this thing called Good Work House. And he was just like recruiting all of us there, which Houston's like then like how I met you. And that kind of brings us to like our first bar class. And then, right after that, like the world shut down, and we decided I was so stoked that like you and Eric, who was also part of the Good Work House, were like planning a Joshua Tree weekend, and you and I were new friends because I like got your number after the cacao ceremony and was like, oh my gosh, like I was invited to this thing with this like new cool community, like yes. And then we ended up in Joshua Tree when everything started shutting down.
Yeah. And I feel like we all contributed to building this little community that we all recognized was really special. and
Yeah.
important, and something that I had never experienced before, which was just people who are aligned with the same values, who really cared about each other and were doing really cool things in the world and wanted to support each other.
Yeah. No, it's so true. And I feel like how shortly after you met Houston, like I guess was that like 6 months before lockdown?
I don't even remember, but yeah, probably something like that.
Because it's so funny because I feel like in talking about creating your community and how you like knew no one, I feel like we had our pandemic where there was like 8 of us and we were doing like little, weekly raves on Friday nights and group dinners and workouts together and little masterminds. And then as soon as the pandemic ended, you and Chad moved to a new apartment and it felt like you guys had been like hosting things for the community for years.
Yeah.
Like at that point, but it was probably even less than a year than when you met Houston.
Oh, yeah, barely anything. Yeah, we were just so excited to host and to just continue to give back to the community and to receive from the community. And yeah, our house, which we are still living in, that we moved into, is just like so good for hosting. And it's been such a special place of just growth and love and community.
What do you feel like from your perspective? Because I feel like you guys have created such a good open door policy. Like, what have some of your learnings been in like creating the community of like being proactive, being the like catalyst in terms of like the types of experiences you want to welcome people into and like making people feel like welcome and seen and connected?
It's funny because it feels like it comes fairly naturally to me. And I think some of it is because I was homeschooled and very sheltered most of my life. And I just always really wanted friends and I wanted to play and I wanted to go on adventures. And so I feel like that set me up to just really be like, I felt like I wanted to be the catalyst naturally because I was the one that wanted it the most, I felt like.
Right.
And if I were to really break down how to cultivate community, I think one piece is having a physical space together.
Yeah.
Which just doesn't sound that sexy, but like having an actual physical space is really important. And initially it was the Good Workhouse where we could all gather.
Yeah.
And then I think we would gather at volleyball. And then we would gather in different national parks and go on camping trips. And then when we moved into our house that has a rooftop and all of that, then there was a physical space for us all to gather. And it helps. That's like just so important to actually connect and to be able to host things. And if you don't have that, then there's no community because it's like, where are we gathering all together?
Right.
So I think that's important. And then in terms of cultivating, yeah, it's hard to say because it's just I don't think that I ever set out thinking I'm cultivating community.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I'm not like I am creating a community. I was just like, I really want friends.
Yeah. So
I
let's all do
really
these
want
things
friends
together.
And so like I'm gonna be the catalyst. Like because I wanted this so bad, I was like, I'm gonna be the one that takes the action. And like I'm gonna think about what are fun things that we could all want to do together and that are not like drinking and things like that. Like just bonding, ways to bond.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I feel like that's the thing is just if you do want community and you want friendships and like deep friendships, just be the catalyst.
Yeah, do the thing that you would want to have happen. And like you said, like that was such a unique time for all of us, like us going from the Good Workhouse, which lasted for a few months before the pandemic kicked in, to like having our 8-person commune in Temecula and Joshua Tree. And that's like where I kind of got your initial wisdom around like me stepping into coaching, which created the catalyst for me for transitioning my career. but yeah, like the national park trips that we did, you and Chad hosted so many like rooftop acoustic nights. You hosted little masterminds at your house. You hosted like, yeah, the after party for big like Burning Man type parties at your house. Girls mushy nights, girls tantra nights. Yeah, good times.
Yeah, that's where the physical space comes into play.
Totally. Yeah, it's like where can we all gather? And even if it's like you feel like you don't have a house for hosting, it's like we did like being the one to catalyze the national parks, or like let's make these things happen, especially when it's like new friendships, because I feel like that's when you really want to like solidify foundations, and then it's easier to go like months without seeing people like later on, but it's like those new friendships that you really want to like crystallize or like form the foundation for, which I feel like really did for like our West Side community during that pandemic time. Yeah, around that time, is that when you also got into coaching?
No,
you had gone into coaching before that.
Yeah, I had gotten into that probably like 2 years prior to that, maybe a year and a half. So I had been doing that for a minute.
Because I was gonna say you were kind of in a way still like from that side, like cultivating digital community.
Yeah, for clients. Sure.
Because you had like groups of women, right?
Yeah, it was very community and group oriented for sure. And again, yeah, I just think it's funny because it's not what I had set out to do, but it just happened as a result of what I was, I guess, naturally craving.
Yeah, that's so real, following the craving and the curiosity. And then can we transition to like how that it just like, yeah, the timeline from like meeting Houston to like how it all comes full circle to like Mycelium at its property. But like and I know you, like you said, it kind of just happened, but like to walk the listeners through it, like with the festival that you guys decided to create, and like what idea did you think it would be when you started out to create Mycelium? Because the first one was just like meant to be a party kind of, right?
Yeah,
for
totally.
Our friends.
Yeah. The first inkling was when it was towards the end of COVID, and one of Chad's friends had shared the venue, Cielos, with him. And he was like, wow, this is such a cool venue. Again, the space.
Yeah, true.
Space really, really is important.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, there's this space. We could create something really cool for our friends, and we could all just throw it together, and it's going to just be for community. It was towards the end of COVID, and we were all craving to just get out and do something that was not the normal, just day-to-day stuff. And so that all just came together really fast, and we just pulled people from the community and different workshops and activators and facilitators. And you know, I myself have been to probably like 20, 30 festivals in my day. And
wow.
I know, I've been to a lot. Yeah. And, those festivals have been so monumental for my growth as a person in terms of connection and being able to let my walls down and to be able to actually like truly connect with the human, not just in like work or just the day-to-day bullshit,
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, and Chad and I had been to a few festivals together and had just a beautiful time. And so that was kind of what we wanted to throw there, was like a party festival experience. And yeah, and it really, again, I can't take credit for this initially because, like, how I was saying, I've really intentionally created a lot of my life.
Yeah.
And I intentionally created the community that led to Mycelium, but Mycelium was like not on my radar.
On your bingo card.
Wasn't on my bingo card. Wasn't on my vision board, which is really cool.
But it was just a, like amalgamation of like things that you
of
loved.
All the things,
like wellness, friends, communities, like partying, in a healthy way.
Yeah, and it really was a gift. Like it was for community by community. It wasn't just myself and Chad who started this. It was a group of us, and And everyone just contributed. And it was just really cool to have a common goal that was not self-motivated. It was very much, we're doing this for the collective, which was really beautiful.
And you threw that
And
first one together in 3 weeks, right?
it was like, I think it was like 5 weeks
Okay.
from which seems like it's a trend.
Yeah, I know. I can't wait to circle back to the this last one.
Yeah.
That's so funny. And so the first one was just kind of like, let's just throw this like epic event. And then were you kind of able to enjoy it during the first one? Because I know like for my wedding when I planned it, it's like this like funny balance as like one of the creators of the thing, not to like think about how everyone's enjoying it. It's like, how did you find that balance in the first one? And B, like when during it or after were you like, oh my gosh, like we need to do this again?
Yeah. Well, I think that I really enjoy leading things and being a part of something rather than just experiencing it. And honestly, a big reason is because I am so opinionated and I'm very sensitive. So like when I'm just experiencing something, sometimes I'm just like, I don't know. I get anxiety.
I surrender control.
And I'm just like, I don't like, just it's the music and the lights and just the crowd and just it all becomes a lot. So I really enjoy taking that opinionated kind of nature that I have and curating an experience that is up to like a high standard that I would really enjoy. And so I like to be a part of it. And I think I enjoy it almost more in a different way when I'm leading it and a part of it, even if I'm running around and even if I'm just like, being pulled in different directions. And even though it can be stressful at times, there's this extra layer of fulfillment that I receive from being a part of it. And so, yes, it definitely was stressful and I had a lot of anxiety going into it. I'm like, what could go wrong? This is just a bunch of our friends here. Like, hopefully no one gets COVID. And like, there's all these things and wanting the music to be right, the lighting to be right, the programming to go smoothly, the food to be great. And so there was a lot of that. But over the years of doing it, I've really learned that if you plan it and you really have attention to detail and you set it up correctly, everything will always work out.
Yeah.
During it. Everything always will work out during it. There might be things that you have to move through, but yeah, I definitely, oh my goodness, that first Mycelium, I enjoyed it so much. We had so much fun and it was totally stressful, but it was just the best thing ever. It was just a giant playground for us all to connect and just, again, it's like the whole ethos of mycelium is about connection. It's not about mushrooms. It's about the mycelial network that connects, the plants. And it also is just a good analogy for humans and how we have this network of, energy and resources that we all share. And it can look invisible, but we are all connected. And when we can come together and we can truly connect, then we can make something greater than just the parts of us.
Yeah. I love that so much of, kind of imagining all of us like having our individual growth and then like sending out little energy to other people and receiving it back and growing together.
Yes.
Pulsing like the mycelial fungi network, as you say. And so, when you were done with that first one, because the first one was so many of just our friends and like their friends. So was it like, okay, like actually we're onto something, or like the feedback we're getting is so good, like we can't not do it again?
Yeah, that's kind of what it was. And even the owners of the venue, gave us feedback of just like, your community is amazing and like this was our favorite event of the year and you guys did such a good job. And we were like, well, if we could plan this in 5 weeks, like what could we do if we had a whole year? And again, I think we all got so much fulfillment out of it that we were like, let's just keep going. And there was so many connections and little things and growth happening afterwards that I could see was a direct correlation to the actual event, that it wasn't just, it's like not just a party. It's somewhere where people really you can build business relationships and you can practice. So many of my friends, I saw them like practicing their voice and using their voice and their talents and sharing their gifts and the confidence that comes from that. And then what sparks from there. And that's what really kept and keeps us going with doing this event, because it's a not-for-profit event, so we don't make money from it, but there is just so much fulfillment and joy that comes from the actual event. And so so when we were like, well, we cannot stop this now. This is its own, it has a life of its own.
Right. And the funny thing is, like you said, it's like not for profit, so it's like you spend so much time on it. It's like a whole other job.
I know,
but it's just
it's
like
a fun job
from
though.
The love of it.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like work. It just feels so fun and playful and enjoyable. It just feels right.
And then you guys really have gotten to like, the cool thing is like have a canvas for like, oh, if there's like a musician that we really love, we can just invite them to play at Mycelium. And it's like such a cool way to like connect with artists, because it's like you have the platform or the stage to like bring them into like our like our network, like the mycelial world.
Yeah.
Like
that's
Soul
a good
Rising
point.
and Kerala Dust and like
like both Chad and I and the other planners, like we love music. Music is just such an integral part of my life, and it's been so fun to bring that, just like what is possible here. Like, oh, this favorite artist, oh, I've been listening to this person for a year, what if we reached out to them? Let's see if they can come or want to come. And because it is not for profit, it doesn't feel like we're grinding this thing through or like really trying to maximize profit. It's just like, let's create the most epic experience and maximize the value that people get to experience as possible.
Yeah. And just to paint a picture for the listeners before we go on to like one of my favorite stories, which is Mycelium this year and how it came to be. But yeah, just paint a picture of like what the arc of Mycelium has become, like what they would experience if they're coming to the festival, like kind of, from the opening ceremonies to like the different things that are going on.
Yeah. So I feel like it's like a mix of a festival and a retreat. And so we start off with opening ceremony, and
always
we open the space, and we set a very safe space for everyone, and it's a closed container. So we ask that people come from start to finish rather than popping in and out throughout the weekend. And so an opening ceremony, and then we usually have some music afterwards and some connection. And then throughout the weekend there's workshops that are a blend of relationship building, of connection building, of nervous system regulation. There's yoga, there's breath work, all designed to
ice baths,
and really everything that we do comes with one focus, which is to connect to self and connect with others. And so everything is designed to facilitate that. And so and there's the foods included, and we all eat together. There's all like homemade meals, and they're very healthy, and we don't use seed oils, and we use grass-fed meats and acai bowls
on Saturday
at
afternoon.
The pool. And there's lots of dancing and freedom and self-expression, and it's a beautiful, beautiful time.
I love so much that there is like something for everybody at any given time. There's like always a pool side set, or there's like a connection workshop going on at the same time, or at night there's like a deep music in the speakeasy, and then there will be like someone playing like a string instrument in the teepee.
So like a yin yoga. Whatever your nervous system needs in the moment, you can choose.
And I do feel like a huge part of it is the breaking bread of sitting with people for full meals. And that's why I like when I saw Mycelium and we thought about our wedding, I so wanted to have it there because like everyone's staying on glamping tents or tents on the property. There's the central teepee, the pool. Everyone sit at the old Mycelium property, like would sit and eat around the fire. And I feel like seeing how everyone really got to drop in Mycelium was like, I was like, I want that for my wedding versus people just coming. No, there's no wrong way to do a wedding.
We respect all
weddings. But I was like, it feels like people have way more time together and I'll have way more time with my guests and getting to do these, and parents and friends from different worlds getting to sit and have coffee in the saloon, which is like, what happens at Mycelium. So I just think there's like, it's like so much more time to connect than other festivals too, when you're like going back to like an Airbnb or like a separate camping zone. And
everyone stays on the property.
Yeah. And so with that, with like kind of like what you guys have created, which like I said, dreams came true for me, getting to teach yoga to Soul Rising, being there live. Right after our wedding, can you kind of walk like the listener through, like, this is like my favorite come together community story of all time, like what happened when the Cielos property fell through, like 55 days before you guys were going to do Mycelium? Like, what were you like walk us through like your internal dialogue then and what kind of options you were running through, and then when you decided to like pivot and make it happen in a new way.
We had planned Mycelium 2024 fully and completely. And so we had the artists booked, we had the activators booked, our budget was fully maxed out, and we had even paid the venue, which is Cielos. And to make a long story short, we got a call and found out that the venue had to close down due to a multitude of things, but permitting issues, landlord issues, things like that. And so we were honestly devastated at first. And Chad and I were going through every possible outcome and solution and how, like, okay, do we need to cancel this thing? We were looking at other venues and trying to pull all of this together. And there was like one day where we were just, I think I cried like 6 times, and me and Chad were just fully depressed. Like, we were just trudging. Like, I remember taking a Luna to the dog park, and Chad and I were just looking at each other like, oh no, like everything is terrible.
What a like insane amount of pressure to be going through then, like when people have already like bought tickets, you've already booked you've already booked artists. Like, it's like one of your prides and joys of the year. And
and it was just, and so many of our friends too were so excited for this year because they were going to do a workshop or an experience, and and also just the financing of it all falls on us. And we're about to lose so much money, and it was going to massively affect our life. And so it was pretty devastating. And so I think we allowed ourselves like a day to really just feel it all and process.
And within that day, you kind of were fully like full deepest fear allowance, like, okay, like we have to kind of almost come to terms with or grieve, like it might not happen.
Oh, yes.
Like we have to like let ourselves go there to the worst case scenario kind of thing.
Yes. There was a full grieving of like what was going to be. And I was just thinking about all of the phone calls that I was going to have to make and all of the disappointment, and just like all of that was just so sad. And it felt really disheartening at first because we were like, we're just doing this for the people. Like, we're not even profiting from this.
Like this isn't even my coaching business.
Like, why is this happening? So we allowed that for a minute, and then we were like, okay, let's be solution oriented here. And so we went through all of the different scenarios, and we were looking at all different venues and everything, and nothing felt right. And we had, very full circle, good old friend Houston, who was the first person that I met in Venice that led to this community, that led to Mycelium, had bought some property in Topanga. And
like, what are the odds? Which
yeah.
also I like right before all of this, like had the honor of like leading a small birthday thing just in the forest on his property before it was like built out too. So funny. Houston always comes through.
I know. Houston, love him. But yeah, and so he had bought property and he had it for about a year. And, you know, the plan was to really build it out and make it very community focused. And, you know, they hadn't really made too much ground on it. And we had always joked, like, we, you know, in like 5-10 years, we should host Mycelium there. Be really fun. And so we also knew that he was about to purchase the front property, which connects to the back property. And so we gave Houston a call and we were like, we have this crazy idea.
Wow.
This crazy idea.
When you first had the idea, were you like, no? Or
yes. Like I was, and honestly, Chad believed more than I. Like I was like, there's no way. There is like sound issues. It's Topanga. It's like nothing. There's nothing there. There's like,
and he had an old like decrepit prop house on his
there was
property.
a prop house that needed to be demoed. I mean, it was just, I had a hard time seeing the vision. Chad luckily saw the vision, but we also really needed to get we had paid the venue. And so we were like, we need to be reimbursed from the venue. And so we worked out a deal with the owner of the previous property to allow us, and they had to get off the property very quickly. So we worked out a deal to where we could come and we could, you know, get the assets, basically some of the assets at the old venue, like a teepee and the pool and things like that, and actually like take them down and rebuild them at our friend's property and actually like build this out. And so this was about 55 days before Mycelium was to take place, and it felt completely impossible.
But Houston said yes. He's like, go
Houston said yes. Yeah, Houston said yes. Houston was stoked because he really
that was his vision.
Yeah, that was his original vision. He really wants this to be a place for community. And so, yeah, it's recounting the story is like, there's so much there. But long story short, we had to call in the community because there was no way that we could do this ourselves. And so I remember just making calls to anyone and everyone that I could, just being like, hey, this is what's happening. We really need help. This is the vision. Like, can you help? And everyone was just like, yes, what can I do? Here is a connection. Or like, I am down to volunteer this much time. Like, let's do this thing. And it was so beautiful. It was just like, it felt like everything that had been given out, like through Mycelium and just through the things that we had given to the community, was just like coming back times 10. And so, yeah, like where from here? And then we did it. We did it. We went up and we broke all of this. We broke down like a giant teepee. Like, think about like two giant teepees together as if it was like a Lego set that we had to like break down and unscrew and then cart 2.5 hours away and then rebuild.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy to see the extent of it, like demoing the house, rebuilding the teepee, bringing all the glamping tents there, bringing like the pool and the pool deck.
Oh my
there.
God. And getting it up Topanga Canyon Boulevard and back into this property. It's like a massive shipping container, and there like power and water needed to be trenched to different areas on the property. And it was just insane. Like, basically a bunch of amateurs who had really never built anything in our lives came together and literally executed, like not flawlessly, but like almost flawlessly.
And just like the amount of money you guys save with labor, just because like, and I didn't like, Evan Cudworth like flew in from like Chicago.
People flew in and volunteered their time, and like just so many people showed up and just fully volunteered. Like, we're staining things and building things, and we built a bathroom.
Yeah, I know. I was so impressed. I was like seeing you the day, because I think I came up like twice during that time to help. and seeing you like with like power tools or like, yeah, you were like torching wood.
Sanding,
And
staining.
yeah, I was just like, oh my
torching.
God, Ashlyn's in her like handy woman era. Like
It was
so impressive.
fun.
And you're like, I love working with my hands.
I love it. It was so beautiful. And like it really brought me back to the truth that humans are made to be in communities, and really when we work together towards a common goal, it's crazy what we can do, and also how fulfilling that is for each of us individually. Like, I swear that was the best time of my entire life, even though it was the hardest and like most stressful. It was just so empowering and so gratifying to be with people and have dinners with everyone every night, and we're all just like exhausted but just so fulfilled and happy and proud.
It was like, I mean, yeah, even just seeing the stories of the dinners, I was like, it feels like this is like summer camp. Like you guys would all eat outside, and like I know you and Chad lived in Topanga part of the time while you were working up to the festival. Something else that I really admired about you guys during this time and always was like the 2 days I went up there. I'm not gonna lie to you, I was like, whoa, is this really gonna happen?
I know.
By Mycelium, but you and Chad and others were so like steadfast and like, this is happening. I was just like,
it's happening no matter what.
Yeah, I was just like, I love their like fearless leadership of just like, it's this way and it's gonna happen. Because then I was like, yep, it is happening. And it's like, as like the creator or something, or getting other people excited or involved. I mean, it reminded me of my days founding my beverage company, which I didn't have this conviction, but it's like when you are like founding something or one of the creators, it's like you have to have that conviction.
Yeah, you do.
Because you're convincing yourself, then you're convincing people to like work with you on it. You're convincing like the outside public. And so I just like, yeah, really admired that conviction that you guys presented during that time. I don't know if you felt it or if you're just like, fake it till I make it.
Yeah. Well, so actually, when we did finally make the decision that we were like, we are going to do this, we are going to get these assets, we are going to build them out, and we are going to have Mycelium, Chad and I had a specific moment together where we were like, okay, this is the decision we're making, and we are just fully going to get behind this decision. And we had both read a book called The Surrender Experiment that was very impactful for both of us, and we had just recently read it. And we decided, we were like, let this be our surrender experiment, where we are making this decision and then we are surrendering the rest. And that was a very pivotal moment for both of us, where we just were like, we are stepping back and we're allowing this to happen. And it was amazing. There was so many surrender moments where it was just, we couldn't have predicted what happened. So many people coming out of the woodwork, and neighbors of the property volunteering their land, and just people, just things that you couldn't have even managed. And it just felt like, because we had said yes to this and we were like, this is going to happen, the universe was just like, I'm going to support you.
Yeah.
And so I think because we were like, we're in this together, we're doing this, and we're holding the belief that this is going to happen. And it kind of was just like, it fucking has to. Like, the ticket, everything is booked, tickets are sold, people are coming, it's fucking happening. Like, and it just forced us to go for it. And trust me, there was plenty of doubts. There was plenty of doubts and moments, but it was kind of just like just continuing to override that with like, I'm surrendering. Yeah. I feel like there would be pieces that I'm like, oh my God, the parking, like, how is that going to come together? How is general camping going to come together? And I would just be like, just surrender and trust, surrender and trust, surrender and trust. And 100% of the time, it just, even sometimes at the last minute, it would just work out. And so I think maybe that was also what you were feeling, was just like, okay, we decided, and it was like surrender and trust, and there's no point in doubting at this point because we're doing it.
Yeah, I love that so much. I think it was like my friend Kieran once said, like, conviction breeds clarity. And it's just like having that conviction without any extra energy spent on like doubt or elsewhere. It's like you both like brought that in and like made it such a safe and unshakable place where it's like, it is going to happen, which I think is such a cool like reminder or pin for like the manifestation piece too of like, I don't know how it's going to happen.
Yes.
But it is going to happen. And it's like, we have the parameters of like the tickets are being sold. We're not going to like wonder what if, or if this happens, then we'll pull out. It's like giving yourself no other option than to make it work. And I do feel like that attitude as humans like pushes us like beyond our limits, and also like with the power of the community and people, not just getting to experience the collective of Mycelium when the festival's happening, but people really feeling like they're bought into creating it. And like people went who were like, oh, like I sandpapered that, or like for me I was like, I torched that bathroom door.
Yeah.
That wood stain is because I did something once.
And it feels so good.
It does feel good, and it feels like everyone's like bought into it. During that time, what was like one of your, so like you had the surrender and trust. Obviously there's so much energy that you're surrounded by all the time, and like managing so many different projects and people leading up to the festival. You're someone who I deeply respect with boundaries, because Ashlyn always says when you do what's best, or no, you do you, meaning like you do what's best for you, like everyone else will be fine. What were some of your energetic practices like that you learned from your coaching or just your own wellness journey that like helped you stay centered amidst like all of the moving parts?
Well, one thing was I meditated every morning. So I had, and maybe it didn't happen every single morning because there was so much moving, but I would meditate or take some time for myself every single day. And that was very pivotal for me to just be able to come back to my own energy because there was so much moving. And I would say that was like the main thing that I actually really stuck to. And I also, whenever I felt like, okay, I need to take some space from Topanga and I need to go home, like I need to go to the gym or like I need to work out, I allowed myself to do that rather than just being like, no, I need to push and grind and like totally sacrifice my needs. So I was very aware of my body and what I needed and making sure that I had healthy food and just really taking care of my body throughout all of it. And I think it's a continuous being around a lot of people and maintaining boundaries is just a continuous practice of coming back to your own energy and asking yourself, what do I need in this moment? And when I'm feeling stressed, is there a need that's not being met? And how can I meet that for myself rather than expecting anyone else to meet that for me? And so I would say those are the main things. And yeah, I definitely wasn't like journaling every day and working out every day perfectly and like doing all my practices, but I definitely had at least like 5 to 10 minutes by myself, typically in the mornings per day, and really fed myself well and made sure to just take the time that I needed.
I think that, the explanation of boundaries is so important because it's like, it's easy when we're doing a project with like a deadline or we're like spearheading something, and we could always be doing more. And as entrepreneurs or just in life, and it's like, under really like having your own self-mastery and understanding of like when I'm fully centered and my cup is full, like I can actually show up better for everybody else and for this project. So I'm going to like prioritize that and trust that that actually is going to be like the best thing for everybody.
Yeah. And I love my friend Adrienne talks about boundaries a lot, and she shared this with me, which I thought was very helpful, is that boundaries are really like you meeting your own needs. Sometimes when people talk about boundaries, it's like you need things from other people almost. It's like, hey, I need you to do this so that I can blank. And it's really like a boundary is like, I know what I need and I'm going to give that to myself. I'm just letting you know that that is the thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you are always meeting, and like even if you can't hold this, like I'm going to be okay. Like I'm going to be good because I'm taking care of my own needs first.
Yeah.
Like it's not like a deficit of like, I need you to meet my needs. It's like, I know what I need and this is what I'm expecting. If you can't deliver that, then that's fine. I know how to still meet my own need, whether that's walking away or finding a new situation.
Yeah.
And so I think that is very empowering.
That is very empowering. Oh my gosh, shout out Adrienne, who I met at your birthday party.
Yeah, she's the best.
At Mycelium. Yeah, what a great way of explaining it. It's the radical ownership and also like the communication of our boundaries and allowing the other person to like have their own experience, like a reaction to it.
Yeah, and it starts with you knowing yourself deeply. And that's where I think sometimes we can go wrong, is like not knowing your own needs.
Right. And then that leads to like feelings of like resentment or disappointment or mismatched expectation with people because we haven't like taken the time to check in with ourselves.
Yes.
Like, what does little Meredith need? What does little Ashlyn need?
Totally.
And then two last like little rapid fire questions, if you will, before we give some questions to the listeners and then treat them in our mini episode with a little Medi. But when you were at the festival this year, because it was so intense, like the 55 days leading up and so many people had built it, do you feel like were you able to like savor it? Was it a blur? Like, what was your feelings during this mycelium? Like seeing like, holy shit, it actually happened.
Yeah, it did feel a little bit like a dream. Like, oh my goodness, everything that we just worked for has arrived and it is happening. Like, it almost felt like it wasn't real. I was like, holy shit, we did it. And I feel like this mycelium was the hardest one for me, to be completely honest, because it did feel like literally up until the last second we were building things and everything was coming together. And so my own energy wasn't the most grounded and centered around everything. And so it was a little bit chaotic behind the scenes. But I would say that it was the mycelium that definitely grew me the most. Like, I really feel like I was able to be more of a leader through this. I was able to really hone my communication skills and my emotional hold on myself and with others. And so I would say it was tough, but it was one of my favorite myceliums because of just the way that I think my confidence grew and who I became as a person through it.
Yeah.
So,
wow. Yeah.
But I had so much fun, and there were so many moments that felt very surreal of just like, wow, I can't believe we're here. And I was fully present for all of them.
Oh, that's, so sweet. And Luna even got to make an appearance in the speakeasy at the wee hours of Sunday morning with everyone.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say on that too is I was very cognizant of the fact that this was a once in a lifetime experience. Like, all of these elements will never be the same again. And even if we're building a project together at some point, it's never going to be this exact scenario of how it all came together.
Yeah.
And so I was very proud of myself, just of being present the whole time, of just reminding myself, like, even though there's stress, like, enjoy this. Enjoy this time and be super present, because it's never going to be the same. And this is like, just what a beautiful experience and moment.
Yeah, like reminding yourself of the uniqueness of this one, of like, this is like the time where it's like we had 55 days, everyone band together. Here it is.
Yeah, we'll never have that exact experience ever again. So I was just trying to have a lot of gratitude for it.
Oh, I love that so much. And what would you like tell your like Ashlyn from 4 years ago who's like, I want community. I don't have a single friend. Like, imagine that Ashlyn meeting like this Ashlyn who just like pulled off a 300-person festival with the help of like 80 friends.
Wow.
Like building things with the one friend that she met in Venice, which is so funny because sometimes it only takes one.
I would literally say you just need to meet one person.
Yeah.
And I would just tell myself to follow the steps that I was honestly following, which is like, get clear on the kind of community that you want. Like, get really clear on that, because it's not, for me, it wasn't like drinking friends, and it wasn't just shallow friends. It was like, no, like, I was very clear that I wanted friendships and community of people who were doing things and creating things and who were going to support each other. So I would say, like, I would tell her to continue to get clear on that. I would tell her to continue to go to spaces and experiences that you feel like those type of people would hang out in.
Yeah.
And I would tell her that it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time.
Only a matter of time.
I love that. What are you manifesting now that you've just done Mycelium? You just got back from leading a retreat. Yeah. If like kind of like if this is the new Jubal song, like what vision are we creating?
Yeah, I feel like my next initiation, and not in like the near future, but I'm definitely thinking a lot about having a family and being a mom, and really thinking about how I would be as a mom, and what kind of things would I teach my children, and how would I hold that field. And so I would say that's one of the things that I'm definitely manifesting, I guess, and just really like ruminating and contemplating about. And then also too, just a continuation of the work that I do in the world, and manifesting just how that's all gonna show up and weave and connect. And also a house. Really want a house.
Okay.
I really want like a real house where we can like do projects on that, and
like
have a family, and have a grass like a yard for Luna and the kids.
Oh.
So yeah, I feel like it's funny. It's like my dreams have evolved into some very like wholesome things, and I'm excited for that next phase.
I love it. We've all been in this phase together with like the 6 a.m. cuddle puddles, and now we're all like, okay, time to think about family in the best way. It's cool that we're all kind of like on a collective but individual journey, riding the different waves together. Would it be a house in Venice?
I think I see like multiple
houses.
Multiple locations, but definitely probably not, maybe not Venice, maybe Pacific Palisades.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't see us leaving LA, like the LA area.
Yeah.
Just depends on where that is. But I don't necessarily see myself walking my like newborn child down the street next to a homeless person in Venice. So, so there's that.
Right. Okay. So LA area in general, not West Hollywood, and maybe not Venice.
Yeah. So who knows? That's the question.
Yeah. Being open, surrender, experiment to the house.
Yeah.
And everything. And yeah, I mean, we'll just kind of close out with a few questions for our listeners to keep in mind. But yeah, I just find it so interesting, or just my own reflection of you. And I kind of said this at the intro, but like, I feel like Mycelium is such a cool representative of just like how you live your life, of like manifesting things for yourself and then giving other people stages. Because I know Mycelium also, it's kind of like, your coaching has evolved from health coaching to like helping people launch their own coaching programs to now like kind of the holistic journey. And I feel like you've also in that way been so good at like, intuiting other people's like stage and platform. So it's just so cool to see like your personal professional life like run in parallel with like what you actually create with Mycelium in these different pockets of your life.
I love that perspective. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's sweet. I haven't thought about it in that way.
Oh, I think about it all the time.
I love the way you see these like patterns and connections.
Yeah, it's so cool. Okay, well, I mean, I guess you kind of said it already with the, what you got from Mycelium, but just to like give the listeners like 2 to 3 like things to think about. If you were to like break it down for them, what would you say like the first like to journal on? What would those questions be?
I would say the first question that I would ask yourself is, what is my most ideal scene? And that could be for whatever area that you're looking for, that you want to create. That could be within your health, that could be in your relationships, that could be in your career. But like, what is your most ideal scene? Because sometimes when we ask ourselves like, what do I want, we write down or share or think about like what we don't want. And so think about it from the positive, like, this isn't just like, oh, well, it'd be nice if this would happen, or like, this is the realistic perspective. It's like, no, what's the most ideal scene?
Yeah.
What's the most ideal, baby?
Yeah. The blue skies.
Yeah. So I would say like that's a really good place to start. And then I would say number 2 would be to ask yourself, well, what are all the reasons that I can't have that thing? Meaning, what are all the reasons that my mind is telling me that that is not a realistic thing for me, or that's not going to happen?
Yeah, like acknowledging the self-limiting beliefs.
Yes. And write all those out. And sometimes even just writing them out, you're just like, oh, that's stupid.
Yeah.
But it helps to get them out because they're like kind of buried deep sometimes and they're running the show. And when you get them out, you're like, oh, yeah, that's not that bad.
Yeah, let it out to let it in.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say what within my current life is giving me the most energy, or that I feel the most in flow state when I am in that or experiencing that or doing that. I think that's a really good question to ask yourself, because that can point you closer to the thing that you want. If you're like, I'm feeling a little unclear on what exactly I want and what I want to create, and like just note what things in your life already are giving you energy. Even if you're in a job that you don't like, there's probably a reason why you're in that job, and there's probably elements of it that you really do like. And so I think that's a really good place to journal on or just reflect on, is what are the pieces that are giving me life, and then how can I go into that more and less of the other stuff.
Yeah, it's like acknowledging like what already is here and how can I like double down on that, versus like feeling like every single thing is out of my control or hasn't manifested yet. Because it's like the more your energy is focused on that, like the more of that you'll find. I love that. Okay, wow. Thank you so much, Ashlyn. I know there's like a million different threads we could have gone down.
Yes. Millions.
I know. I was like, also Ashlyn's a mini influencer amongst our friends, who like in terms of like tea organization, cabinet, sunrise manifesto journals,
all the things.
So yeah, I'm like, we'll put her Amazon affiliate link here in the show notes. But yeah, so do you want to just tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah, Instagram's the best place for that. It is the Ashlyn Show, TheAshlynShow. And I also have a podcast, which is really fun, called The Ashlyn Show as well. And yeah, that's the best place to find me.
Oh my gosh. Yay. I know. I was honored to be on your podcast earlier this year. So now we got a double Ashlyn Mayer feature.
I love it.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Ashlyn, for being here. And I'll see you next week for more powerful stuff.